Love, that ever-flowing liquid fire of light, ever-expanding and illuminating truth, which is always revealed with wisdom, a spiritual nutrient necessary for vitality that is maintained through selflessness, a filter of ether that aids purity, which is love. Love, a limitless paper lantern floating into infinity on the intentions and actions of initiates of the mysteries. Welcome, everybody. We have Jessycka Drew with us today. Jessycka, how's it going?
It's going fantastic. How's it going with you?
It's going. It's been a good day. I've been busy all day, but it's been good. We've been trying to connect now since like last week, but the universe was resisting our interaction until today at this time. So it's good to finally connect.
It is, definitely. It's fantastic to finally allow the universe opened up and cleared a space.
Yeah, that's when it had us scheduled. Yeah, right. I wanted to thank you too for the review that you left me on iTunes or whatever. I appreciate it. That was very kind of you.
Oh, you're welcome. Definitely. I started listening to the podcast probably a few weeks ago, and I really do appreciate, just the genuine conversations, genuine life stuff, and just the honest kind of chat that you have here. So it's a well-deserved review.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I want people's honest opinions because that's what helps me. I mean, if I'm doing good things, I want to know. If there are things I could do better, I'd prefer not to have it in the review. But I mean, come out certainly, because I just want to be real with things. Normally, when I have somebody on, I like to ask them what they're grateful for. So, what are you grateful for today, Jessycka?
Oh my gosh, I am grateful. I'll quote the universe, infinitely, but no matter what's happened thus far, every moment, the universe will provide, so I'm just grateful to continue to get those opportunities to get those gifts from the universe, whether it be, relationship or home or, whatever it is, food, when you don't have it, it's somehow it always ends up you get it. And so that's what I'm infinitely grateful for, because that's just, I've been reminded a lot of those things lately.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. It is pretty amazing how you kind of always get what you need. It's not necessarily what you want sometimes. There's definitely been times where I've asked for what I need, not what I want. And then I'll get it, and I'll get very upset because it's not what I wanted. I'm like, I don't want to deal with this. But then the lesson that I get from those situations has been life-changing for me. And when I look back, there's so many times where I had exactly what I needed to make it through those situations, and I just wasn't aware of it then. It was just kind of oh, it's just here for me. And now when I look back, I'm like, wow, that's pretty peculiar. A lot of people don't get those kind of things.
Right. And
they just don't notice it.
The more you fight it, I think, I've learned over the years, most recently, if you just trust that the universe is going to make sure that you have what you need and you don't fight it, it's like Alan Watts talks a lot about that. The stream doesn't fight the rocks, it just flows, and the more you just kind of flow with it and just have that trust that you will get what you need, the universe does provide. But the more you fight it and combat it, the longer that reward and that gift is put off and the longer you struggle.
Wow, that's definitely really profound. There were so many times, I've talked about this on the podcast before, where I've tried to trust the universe in a stupid way because I didn't understand how it worked. When I moved to Key West and I just quit my job and I was drunk and I tried to move down to Key West and try to find a job in a house with $300, and I'm like, the universe has me. And then I wonder why I'm sleeping in a hotel with bed bugs and why I'm hungover every day.
Yeah.
I spend all my money on booze, and it's because the universe didn't want me to do that. I wanted to do that, and then I put it on the universe to fix my problems, and it's nah, bro, you got yourself into this. Figure this one out yourself, idiot.
Yep, exactly.
But it's cool. I mean, it was a good lesson.
Mm-hmm.
What quotes do you feel most moved by? Like 2 or 3, and can you explain what they mean to you?
Sure. So the 2 quotes that I thought of that most resonate and always have, they're actually from Charles Bukowski, who's one of my all-time favorite writers. And the first one is, some people never go crazy in their lives, and what horrible lives they must lead. And that's always resonated with me, because I feel like just being on the brink of insanity for so many times in my life, that, when, you talk about, like, when you used to drink and drug, and like I used to kind of come on and off these, this brink of sobriety and not sober, and the withdrawals, and then coming back into life. And he talks a lot about, like, some people have never even had a hangover. Like, how do you know what you're made of when you haven't gone to that brink of emotional, physical, or spiritual death, and then, and just about hopped over the ledge, and then came right, you have to milk yourself back and heal yourself. And so that quote has just always resonated with me, because it builds your character, who you are, the fight in you. And so that's one of my favorite quotes. And then the other Charles Bukowski quote that's one of my favorites is, "What matters most is how well you walk through the fire." Because again, life will throw some stuff at you, and no matter what, you got to either face it, you run from it, or but however you deal with it, however you deal with life, however you deal with the fire, it's how well you walk through it. And think that's been like my life path, it's just dealing with these battles and traumas and these real, just regular life situations, doing them sober. And it's like how well you can just walk through them and get to the other side. Because no matter what, we're here to face them at some point,
Absolutely. Yeah, you're either going to face them or have your back turned to them, and they're going to stab you in the back. Like, pretty much the only options, or you can run from it, and eventually you're going to get tired and they'll catch up to you.
Exactly.
Those quotes are awesome. I mean, in my personal life, there's a Hunter S. Thompson quote that, like, he was after Bukowski, if I'm not mistaken, but it's kind of similar to the Bukowski thing in some ways. The first one, Hunter S. Thompson's like, I'm going to paraphrase it. The only people that know the edge are the ones that have gone over it. Pretty much.
Yep.
And it's like, I couldn't understand sanity, having not been insane, like being psychotic for the better part of a year. And it's like, I couldn't find my mind until I lost it. Like, because I didn't know that,
right.
I wouldn't know what it was. And it's like,
exactly.
You can't understand clarity except from distortion, or you can't tell a forest from the trees. Like, you have to be on the outsides or the extreme polarities of things to understand it, really, in my experience and opinion. And then how well you walk through fire, is that what it is? Or
yeah, what matters most is how well you walk through the fire.
No, absolutely. And that's definitely been true as well. It's like, stuff's going to happen regardless, and how you carry yourself through those situations and how you navigate it, that's what's going to determine your whole life. There's people who have been in situations similar to me who have let it destroy them. I mean, even earlier on in my life, the situations I had been through have destroyed me. I'm not who I was then. So it's like I was destroyed.
Right.
But still going on through that is really what makes me who I am today. And it's like, I still got stuff to go through. Hopefully I can keep going forward with it. Those are both really awesome quotes. So I really like that. I've never read any Bukowski, so I really should give him
You'd like him.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of his quotes and stuff. Seems like he'd really resonate with me.
Yeah, he's a dirty old drunk.
That's what I would have been. So I could probably see a lot of who I would have been. I was a dirty young drunk with an old mind. So
exactly.
Could you explain who you are and like what you do? I know a little bit about it, but I'd rather leave it up to you.
Still trying to figure that one out. So yeah, I am. So yeah, I'm went to school for social work. I've worked as a social worker for the past 6 years or so. But I've actually recently, the last year, taken a break from social work, and I've been working on some therapeutic, artistic projects that I've been wanting to do for a long time. So right now, I'm actually a first-time author illustrator. Published my first coloring book, hand illustrated, self-published for adults, called The Grumpy Mushroom. It's actually on Amazon right now, so that's exciting.
Yeah, it is.
And I'm about to publish my first children's book. It's a therapeutic children's book. So right now I'm just working on that big project. I have a Kickstarter right now. So I'm looking for pledges.
I'll be sure to put a link to that in the description then for you.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah, it's going to be it's a huge project. The first book, Possibilities and Tea, is done. And you can get a preview of it on either my Facebook or on the Kickstarter. I have the whole book laid out, and that's just volume 1. There's a whole bunch of volumes, so it's very exciting.
That's awesome. That is very exciting. It's cool to interact with people that are kind of going along that line of like creating the things that they want to do and creating stuff that is going to help people. I like to write too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to write different things. So it's cool to see people that are like at the end part of that. I mean, the end of like the physical writing of it process, I guess, is how I would say. Okay, we're back now after that little bit of technological.
The universe, man. It's how well you walk through the fire. Let's see if we can get through this interview.
Yeah, there you go. Next thing you know, I'm literally going to catch on fire or something.
Oh my God. I would feel terrible.
I'd have to walk around and like still do the interview while I'm on fire.
Oh my God. I would send you telepathic water.
There you go. Send some telepathic aloe vera too, please.
Yeah. I have a lovely aloe plant right now. Send
it over. Did you feel like you were different than others as a child?
Oh my goodness, yes. I think I was kind of forced into that though. So I was born out in Winslow, Arizona, and my biological mother, for her own reasons, couldn't raise my sister and I. So we actually ended up living the first 4 years of my life in a van with our paranoid schizophrenic dad. He had paranoid schizophrenia as a child, so he had lived with it his whole life. And so, the first 4 years kind of missed a couple years of development, just traveling across the country. And when I was about 4, the voices in his head, he kind of succumbed, and he attempted to murder my sister and I by driving into oncoming traffic. And so then we actually ended up in foster care for about a year, and ultimately raised by the family that had adopted him, because he was actually adopted through the Home for Little Wanderers in Boston, Mass. And so the accident happened in Atlanta, Georgia, and a year later we came up to Cape Cod and were raised by the family that had adopted my dad. So needless to say, I definitely felt very different as a child. I think I had a lot of experiences that, kind of made me feel very different and apart and not connected to, the other kids and whatnot. And where I had in these kind of survival, experiences, I lacked in kind of scholastic and developmental. So I struggled in school and things like that. So definitely, man, I mean, childhood was an interesting trip. And, I think that I picked this childhood. I think that I needed to go through what I went through in order to be where I am today. But definitely felt different as a child. Definitely felt different.
Wow, that sounds like a very intense experience to have that early on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I could really see how that would form a lot of noticeable differences in the way that you perceive things and how you perceive yourself as opposed to other people, because that's not the typical experience for a lot of people. I mean, even a lot of adults never go through that experience. So
right. And it also kind of pushed me into a lot of those unhealthy coping skills, because where I came into the planet with, I think I don't know if you've ever heard that the ADD or ADHD, the tuned into higher frequency or a higher dimension kind of thing. I always functioned at a higher vibration or frequency. I always had a lot of energy, and I didn't know what to do with that given my background. So it pushed me into, drinking at an early age and susceptible to an eating disorder and self-harm and all of these things that I kind of, threw me into the wrong direction from that childhood. But again, everything happens for a reason. So
I can kind of relate to like that whole not being able to direct your potential in the appropriate ways. So trying to find external ways to minimize it. Because for me, I was always like a big ball of energy and questions and wanting to know, wanting to do, wanting to this, wanting to that. And a lot of times the people around me, and I don't vilify my parents, they were just doing whatever they were doing, but it's like, I didn't get the opportunities to really grow how I needed to, I feel like. So I started to, since I didn't have these healthy coping mechanisms, like you had said, I started reaching out for alcohol, drugs, and just kind of like poisoning myself to try to be normal, to try to function on an average level, because I can remember like reading in class and being ahead of everybody and then getting in trouble like I wasn't paying attention. And I mean, I guess in a technical sense, I wasn't paying attention. The issue was, though, I was paying so much attention, I was like 2 pages ahead of everybody.
Yeah.
So I get it. And you kind of said like when you first noticed you were different. Did you notice like when you were a kid, or did you notice more so like when you were older, how much different things were for you?
Oh my gosh. When I was a kid, for sure, I had a lot of insecurities, especially just, I think just kind of coming from where, my early childhood and jumping into this family, which mind you, they changed my name. My name was, when I was born, it was Jessycka Drew, Jessycka. And when I was 4 and I moved up to Cape Cod to live with this very, normal American dream looking kind of a family, very strict, they changed my name to a Jessycka, Jessicka Emily, Jessycka Emily, because they wanted me to have a normal name. And I had a lot of these structures and standards I had to fit into, but I couldn't, I wasn't very focused and couldn't pay attention. My memory was terrible because I was all over the place. And so trying to fit into this kind of cookie cutter, very strict family when I was nothing of that. And on top of it, I'm a big believer in numerology, and the name that they gave me was no fit whatsoever in the numbers for me. So, I mean, as a child, I tried really hard to put a face on, like I was fitting in and accepting this path, but inside I was just had this horrible inner turmoil. Ever since I can remember, this inner, this isn't who I am. This isn't, the life I was supposed to live. This isn't, I can't fit into these walls and this kind of square that they're trying to put me in,
No, I can relate to that too. I mean, having substance abuse issues, I think that like a lot of those feelings and thinking it is relative to like a lot of people, although the stories and experiences are different. I find it interesting that how like you point out about the name and how you spell your name now is the original spelling of it, if I'm not mistaken.
It is. It is. Yep.
And I can on like a level that I don't think some people would really think of, like that had to be very confusing and difficult to kind of deal with, because they're even saying like that your name isn't right and you have to spell it this way to be accepted. And that's a lot to put on somebody, I would think.
It is, but again, when it comes full circle where I am now, I'm taking on my name again, and it's a form of empowerment now, going back to the path that I think I was supposed to lead, but I wouldn't have been able to lead it the way that I'm leading it had I not, lived up until this point and survived all of that,
No, I get that too. I mean, I left this area to find myself, and I found myself in this area like 10 years later. And I laughed so hard when that moment hit me, but it's like I couldn't have found myself had I not left. So, and I get it. Like you have to go through that stuff to to get back to where you kind of were. Like, you wouldn't be able to get there had you not went every other way with it, I guess.
Exactly. Yep.
What superpowers do you possess, or what superpowers would you want?
Oh my gosh. So I would want to be able to fly. So very badly. If I could fly, I would fly. I befriended the crows in practically the entire North Shore of Massachusetts. If you throw them some peanuts, they'll remember your face. But I go to the roost a lot, and I just see them flying overhead, and oh my gosh, I have this envy of, I just wish I could fly. But the superpower I do have is, I'm 100% empathic. I think that is my superpower. I think that's why I'm a good social worker. I think empathy and being able to work with people and reach people on a level, to be able to truly help them, I think that is definitely my superpower.
I think that's a good one. I think that a
lot
of people
flying.
say flying. Yeah, I think a lot of people say flying, and that would be so awesome to be able to do.
Yeah.
I have a question about the empathic one, because I'm empathic as well. There's like this modern understanding of it that's popular in modern culture. I don't know, relatively popular, I should say, in those circles, where it's like, I'm empathic, so these people made me feel this, and they're responsible for how I feel, and I can't do anything about it. And I don't think that you're that way, because you wouldn't be very effective as a social worker.
Right. It's definitely a delicate balance. You have to learn to be able to not take on other people's pain and energy. And I think I still work on that to this day. You don't help anybody by feeling the same way that they do. By feeling the 100,000 stab wounds to the heart, or whatever it feels like, when somebody else is hurting or in pain or suffering. So the empathy works two ways. It's not just taking on people's pain. It's being able to open up that energy channel and give your positive vibration and your energy back. And so empathy, I think a lot of times we look at it like it's only one way. Like I feel I'm taking it in, but it's a channel where it opens up two ways. It's like the ultimate healing is being able to open that channel. Instead of taking someone's pain, you send them your enormous empathic positive energy and vibration. And so, but you work on it daily. I still have to work on that. I can't do with an animal hurting. I will literally want to die. It's too painful. But again, it's practice. And so that's why I think empathy is one of the biggest superpowers there is. It's hard. It's hard to manage.
No, it really is. And it's one of those things too, where it really is a matter of having to refine it, constantly work on it, because it can go in balance, out of balance. And I like how you pointed out, it's a matter of kind of giving your energy away, because a lot of people talk about energy vampires, and not to say that they don't exist, because I definitely think there's certain people that just wick energy away from people. But part of the responsibility of being an empath, I would say, in my personal opinion and experience, is identifying those people and being able to still give them stuff, but not like feeding into it. I mean,
exactly.
Even in like psychology things, there's like people that are called like narcissistic supply, I think, or something like that. They're kind of people that like feed narcissists or whatever. And it's like, part of that is the unwilling participation of it, I feel. And when you are cognizant of it, you kind of are able to limit how much you actually put into it, so you're not overexpending yourself. And
exactly,
I know for me, there was like people that I would avoid. And in that avoidance, I actually put myself in a weaker position sometimes. And had I just dealt with them and been cordial, or there'd be people that I would shut down around with and just stew in their negativity or whatever. And then that messes me up, as opposed to just being myself and kind of like redirecting. If they're projecting negativity at me, there's nothing I can do about it. Kind of just redirecting that and letting it fall back on them. Because if there's nothing I can do, I'm not just going to take on a bunch of crap. Does that make sense?
Right. Absolutely. I'm actually thinking, I'm referencing actually something I experienced a lot. My last job, I'd worked for about 3 years in elder protective services, and I investigated reports of elder abuse and neglect and financial exploitation. And one of my biggest challenges as an empath was working with the APs, who are the alleged perpetrators, the ones that, I would have to, be very careful about, what to do with my energy and not allowing their, either if it's intimidation or, just as kind of paranoia or angst, all of these things, and still have compassion because they're still human beings as well. And trying to navigate that, because there are people in the world that do try to hurt you energetically, even if they don't know that they're doing it. So again, just being able to identify it and open up your channels when needed, and protect yourself when needed, and still be compassionate towards other human beings despite their circumstances, because it's the life path that they chose,
Mm-hmm.
It's a challenge.
No, it really is. I can only imagine how difficult it would be trying to deal with those people in that situation when they're the people that have been alleged of doing this wrong to the elderly. I get sometimes worked up over people taking advantage over vulnerability.
Yeah.
And I think part of the reason was... No, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, no, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think part of the reason I get upset about people taking advantage of vulnerable people is just because in my active addiction, I really kind of took advantage of vulnerable women in different capacities in the way that I treated them. And so what were you going to say, though?
No, that's exactly along the lines of what I was going to say. It's hard because we see certain things in ourselves that we with that, so that's exactly what I was going to say.
Oh, okay.
That goes along with, just having compassion for the person that you don't agree with what they're doing, or what they're doing is harmful and hurtful, because we can see those things in ourselves, or things that we just don't ever want to be, and think from a compassionate standpoint as to why are they the way they are? Why are they taking advantage of someone that was vulnerable? Were they vulnerable at one point in their life? Is this why they're doing it? Doesn't make it okay, but to have that general perspective.
No, definitely finding the humanity in those situations is definitely crucial. Like, I'm fortunate that I'm not religious, and I don't mean to minimize people's religious beliefs, but like a lot of people say, those people are demons, they're from hell or this or that, and it makes it very difficult for those people to find the humanity in those individuals.
Exactly.
And oftentimes I think a lot of the people that upset it the most, kind of like you were saying, are people that have traits that we have or actions that we have done, and it might be an extreme example of acting out on those behaviors.
Right.
But most behavioral things exist in all people in some expression. And if it's not like the opposite of that expression, it's a minimized version of it, or something along those lines, in my experience and opinion.
Exactly. I agree.
What circumstances do you feel shaped your life?
Every one of them.
That's true. I get it.
No, there's been a few that have really kind of shaped a big directions, and big moves that needed to be made. I had when I was about 15 to my early 20s, I was a daily drinker. I was a drunk. I drank every day since the time I was 13, and I was also in a very abusive relationship, and that relationship culminated in a really awful home invasion in 2008, right after a longboarding accident. So that whole experience, I had a roommate that was involved, that wasn't associated with these people, and so watching him being hurt and kicked and punched on the floor, I just remember that really changed the direction in my life. I moved up to go to college after that, because I working through the court system to get the people that had broken into our home, which one of them was a boyfriend of mine. I wanted to do that too. I wanted to help battered women. I wanted to be an advocate, like this advocate that had helped me so much during that time. So that really changed my direction in wanting to do something with my life. So I moved off the Cape and went to Salem State University, but I hadn't stopped drinking at that point. You know, I still brought myself with me. And so the second big, you know, event was on 12/20/09 when I hit my knees in the parking lot of Salem State and just said I couldn't do it anymore, and I ended up going to treatment. And I did a 30-day program down in Florida, and I've been sober ever since, you know, going to meetings in the program and whatnot. So and again, you know, the most recent event that really shaped kind of where I am today, you know, despite the fact that my biological father had his issues and was mentally ill, you know, I never thought anything bad of him. I understood why he did what he did, and he was in a group home down in Milledgeville, Georgia, and he had gone missing about 9 years ago, and his remains were found 2 years ago in March, and that kind of led to, you know, my kind of, I was having a lot of PTSD from that, a lot of PTSD coming up from the abusive relationship, and taking the last 2 years, you know, I had to take a medical leave from work. I had to do a lot of self-care, a lot of kind of finding myself and taking on my birth name and facing a lot of those demons. So his death, his remains being found, really kind of triggered the last big movement in my life to where I am today. So that's those are some of the biggies.
Well, yeah, you sound like quite a warrior to be able to keep going forward with everything, and to have walked through the fire and done it with class. I'm sure
thank you. It's not always classy, but sometimes in a fetal position. But
no, I get it. It's not always easy. Sometimes it's messy.
Yep.
I get it.
Yeah.
Was there I understand that it was probably difficult to hear about them finding your father's remains, but there was also probably some like closure and peace in that too, I would imagine.
Yeah, definitely. It's funny, the day the crows came into my life was when I started to actually search for him. He had been missing for so long, and I found an injured crow in my backyard, and for some reason I always correlated the crows and my friendship with just the families all along the North Shore, because they know me everywhere around here. But they were kind of along my journey when I started to search for them. I would look on NamUs, which the National Unidentified Missing Persons website, and I'd look at unidentified remains and bodies that had been found. It was morbid, but started my healing process there. So when he was finally found, you know, there was definitely a sense of closure. I mean, there was also a sense of just intense hurt, you know, I think empathically here with, you know, this is a man who came into the world and was given up for adoption, so he felt unwanted. And this is a man who died in the woods alone, and the only thing that was left was a skull and a torso. And so, you know, I have closure that you know, we found him, and we know he's not out there alone wandering, and he's not alone in the woods anymore. But now I also have that question, and I have to learn to let it go. We'll never know what happened. You know, did he take his own life? Did somebody take his life? So closure, yes. And then I'm still working on letting go of just the sadness of having a soul leave the world like that, and how it happened. But I'm trying to let it go.
I can definitely see how that would kind of be bittersweet in some ways, like to have the closure, but then to still have those kind of questions. No, I get it. I mean, I get it as much as I can without having experienced it, I should say.
Yeah.
Hats off to you for being able to just talk about that stuff and moving through it and recognizing what you need to do to be in a healthy place with it, because a lot of people wouldn't, I feel like. And I mean, some people will just keep picking at it until it, you know what I mean, and never really let it heal. So
right. Well, you know, it's one thing that I think is again part of my life path. It's something that I don't know, like there's some reason why I'm working through it right now in my life, and I don't know if you believe in like your higher self, but your higher self kind of gives you these messages, and having to face these things, and again, it hasn't always been pretty, and it's really tested my sobriety. It's tested my sanity. It's tested my ability, my confidence in the workforce. But the message that's in my first children's book that kind of came out of me in one night was a message I had to say to myself. And it's, I think we're all in this stage right now. A lot of us are facing that inner child, and how are we going to move forward in our life? And the words came out of me like, dear one, don't you know how spectacular you are? Like every bit of your being, every freckle and scar, your worth in this world outnumbers the stars. You are infinity, dear one. Truly you are. And I just said that to myself, and this book came out. And so then it all kind of fell into place that all of the pain, the trials, the tribulation, just daily life stuff, if we're here right now, we can creatively translate our pain into the most beautiful healing thing, and that's my purpose. So out of all of this pain and suffering and walking through that fire, something really beautiful can emanate, and a lot of healing can be done on a bigger scale, the world. We're changing the world here, Ross. Mm-hmm. Basically is what I'm saying.
No, I get it. I mean, different experiences, similar thing though, like having to go into the darkest part of my life. And I'm almost like tearing up thinking about it, like find the meaning in that stuff. Mm-hmm. That's so profound to be able to do. I forget who said the quote, Joseph Campbell or somebody like that, but I'm going to paraphrase it as well. Basically, in the depths of your darkness is where the light is. So right. You have to go into all that stuff to find it. And the quote that you read from your book, that's beautiful. I really like your words that you have there.
Thank you.
This is really kind of an emotional interview for me in some ways, just to really think of, since you've been in a journey of recovery too, and having to go through mm-hmm. kind of all that stuff. It really resonates with me, and with your father having that kind of mental health stuff and me having mm-hmm. psychosis. I mean, it's similar to schizophrenia in some ways.
Absolutely.
Just dealing, thinking about all those different similarities and how things could have been in my circumstances. I don't know. It's just heavy. It's good to be thinking about that stuff. It's not something that I'm not upset about it, but it's not upsetting me. It's just very emotional, I guess, is the best way to describe it.
Right. And, yeah.
No, what were you going to say?
Oh, no, I was agreeing.
Okay.
Definitely.
What positive lessons did you learn from your negative experiences?
Gosh, I guess it comes back to learning how to actually walk through the fire. Every time I fell on my face, it's funny actually, when I had gotten sober and I came back, I failed out of college, my first year sober, because I didn't know how to live sober and doing so. Every challenge that I've had, falling on my face or having to face this, learning this isn't the way I should do it, is literally just led me to learn how to live life and face life and do it, in a way that I'm making a positive impact on other people. It's so corny, but it's so true. Here to be compassionate, learn from our mistakes and not repeat them, or if you do, just love yourself and while we're here, while we get through it, while we get through this funny life thing that we've all chosen to do for whatever godforsaken reason that we've chosen these fleshy meat sacks.
Yeah.
It all comes down to that. So it's funny, the closer I get to learning about, the bigger picture, whatever, I've had 2 out-of-body experiences now, and the second time I left my body, I really didn't want to come back, because it's just how infinitely incredible we are as a being, and we're not 100% there yet. But we have to go through this life to get there. We have to go through the challenges and the wonderful things of life too, in order to get to that higher self again. the ultimate reward.
Yeah, I definitely think that that's part of our process back, is facing all those challenges and growing from them and incorporating them into strengths. I get it. All right. What songs or bands have lyrics that most resonate with you at this moment?
Oh my gosh. At this moment and for always, Pink Floyd is my favorite band. Every single one of their songs resonate with me. I don't know why. I was born in the wrong generation. But yeah, Pink Floyd all the way. One of my favorite quotes is actually my yearbook. From one of their songs is, "All you touch and all you see is all your life will ever be." So that's a good one.
That is a good one. One of my favorite Pink Floyd songs is "Time." I like a lot of their stuff. I'm most familiar with like the ones that are like popular more so than a lot of like, I don't really know a lot from like Pipers at the Gates of Dawn or whatever other albums there are.
Oh my God, their very first album.
Yeah,
that was when they still had Syd Barrett. Things were a little wonky back then.
I don't know like a lot of that stuff. I remember seeing like a video or like hearing somebody talk about Syd Barrett, and it was this thing about him being on acid and running down a mountain. Full speed, like a Zen lunatic, and I thought that was so awesome. Like he just didn't. He like trusted that he wouldn't fall or whatever.
Yeah, that was his downfall. You know, he went off the edge and just kind of didn't come back. So I've always resonated with him, with Syd Barrett in that way for sure.
Yeah, I think I'm always going to be a little bit cracked. I don't think they can completely put Humpty Dumpty back together again. I don't know that I would want to be put all the way back together again.
Exactly.
It's kind of like what Rumi says, where the wound is where the light enters. So.
Exactly.
What philosophy, spirituality, or religions do you find most aligned with your understanding? And please explain them as they apply to you.
Oh gosh. Okay, this is a big question, but I don't have like a specific religion that I mean, I feel like there's so many out of each, major religion in the world and way of belief, they all kind of have these parallels, and I think that they all kind of parallel into this one, and it's that, love and compassion for yourself and your fellow human being is kind of it, because we are, I believe myself that we are all one, and that we are all on this organism planet that functions as one, and once we keep raising the vibration of that, we'll all start to see it more, and it's like our heartbeat actually resonates with the planet's electromagnetic field. So I don't know if that makes sense. It's not really, I just feel like all major religions have these underlying, morals and beliefs, and that it's ultimately to love each other and have a better, more peaceful world.
No, I get it. So it's kind of like the philosophy of omnism, where there's truth in all religions.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I definitely think they're all one thing too, but I kind of think for me, it's kind of like if you look at like an organ, like the heart, for example, there's a bunch of different heart cells that make up the heart or whatever. So it's like we're individual cells of that. So we do have individuality, but collectively we are humanity or whatever. And that's collectively part of this larger organism that is like the earth. And that's like a part of the collective, you know what I mean? And it fractals on up to who knows.
Exactly. Fractals. Yes, I love fractals.
Fractals are awesome, but they've also quite literally driven me crazy before.
And infinity. Those are my favorite. Fractals and infinity. If we learned about that in math class, I would have done a lot better in math.
If that was all they had in math class, I could have grasped that. I don't know what the
That's
hell.
all there is, though. That's all there really is in the end. Fractals and infinity.
That's a good name for like a band or like an album or something. I would totally go see Fractals and Infinity in concert.
I'd see them.
Yeah, that sounds like an awesome. Maybe I have to make a song named that or something. Maybe you could write a book called that too, like personify Fractals and Infinity.
Possibilities in T is about infinity, so.
Oh, that's
halfway there.
There you go. I'm interested to see like what Fractals and Infinity would look like as cartoon characters, though.
I'll let you know. I'll draw them up.
Awesome. I would love to see that.
I think they'll be forever changing, though. I don't think they'll ever be the same. Like they'll never stay the same.
Fractals will keep growing and Infinity will keep expanding.
Exactly.
What do you perceive as your life's purpose?
Oh gosh, surviving. Surviving it all. Surviving and just taking every experience and having some positive impact, either for myself or for somebody else. I mean, it's, again, to get corny and simple, it's to help people. You know, I think I came here for a very specific reason, and even if that person is myself, you know, because I think that's, if we can love ourselves, we can love other people, and that's, I think, love is my purpose. Love.
I think that's a good one. I think that a lot of people, like, that's one of the biggest things that was a hang up in my life, is I didn't love me, and I would try to love like different significant others or other people, but I didn't know how to do it appropriately, because you can't give what you don't have. So
right.
My concept of love towards romantic partners was always skewed. Nothing they ever did was enough, or like if they did one thing that, like, they said something like, you're being a dick, I would like think they hate me, they don't ever want to be with me again. Then I would like become really clingy or like very distant. Like I was looking for so much validation in other people that like it put so much pressure on everybody else. And until I really learned to love me for me in like a healthy way, not like an egotistical way, then I was able to really kind of be better at understanding other people and respecting other people. And sometimes now I have to learn to love myself by how I treat other people, and be like, well, if this was a friend, I wouldn't be like, you're a stupid idiot. Like sometimes my self-talk can be horrible sometimes. It's a lot better now than it was. But
yeah, I agree.
I think that love is definitely crucial. I think that that's a good purpose for you. I think that you're very well suited for that purpose as well.
Oh, thank you, sir.
You're welcome. I see you use the term "sir" very liberally. What do you need to do to feel that you were working towards that goal of being loved?
Oh, okay.
I realize that's kind of a weird question.
I have to love. I just, continue to charge on, to keep facing whatever comes up in my life with as much love and respect for myself as I do for other people. And that's not easy at all. I think it's a lifelong thing, however long I'm supposed to be here. And to keep learning. And it's hard. It's easy to get thrown back and feel like you're making 2 steps forward and 3 steps back, and to have faith that you're supposed to be here and you are impacting people, and that you are supposed to stay, I think is what I need to keep working on.
No, I relate with that. Sense? No, I totally get it. I mean, because it's always a forward thing, and the work is never done, especially in something like that. My path is somewhat similar in a sense, and like I relate to feeling like you're moving backwards sometimes, or like you're not achieving what you're supposed to, or you never will. It's like within the past couple of weeks with the podcast, I'm feeling like I'm not doing enough, I'm not reaching enough people, I'm not being impactful enough. And that's just me criticizing myself. And the thing is, like, if I stop doing what I'm doing now, I'm never going to achieve that. So even if I only reach a couple more people ever with what I'm doing, which probability wise is pretty low, it doesn't mean that I shouldn't do it. I enjoy doing what I do too. And that's one of the things that makes this kind of work so beneficial, because it's not something I guess you could do it if you didn't enjoy it, but like I don't know how long the sustainability of that would be.
Well, and the funny thing is, I always have to keep reminding myself, you know, it's not always about like, oh my God, am I gonna reach enough people with my books? Are enough kids gonna read this? Are enough my message? But you know, we function at like I think I mentioned earlier. I think we function at certain vibrations and frequencies, and I think a lot of us are here, and we just vibrate. And if we just are and are content with ourselves, people are impacted by just our vibrational energy. You know, we can lift people and have, you know, an understanding. Just a conversation with a stranger on the street can you know, ripple out into infinite, you know, amazing possibilities for that person or for them to reach other people. So just existing in our vibration, I think, is doing our role as well. You know, and I have to remind myself of that too, that sometimes just being here, we're doing enough. It's hard though. It's hard when the world is moving and you want to get stuff done. It's hard to remind yourself that all you have to do is really exist and be happy and good to yourself. And then that'll resonate with other people.
I think that's a really good way to put it. I never really had thought of it that way. But yeah, sometimes the work is just being happy. So I have to do the work I have to do what makes me happy in a non-selfish way, kind of, because that'll still ripple out to people. And I agree with the conversation on the street thing. Like, I've talked about it on the podcast a bunch of times about like the 3-second exchange I had with somebody when I lived in California, where it still sticks with me. Like, you never really know how your kindness interacts somebody after you've left, especially a stranger. You don't know how long that sticks with them in a positive way when you do something nice for somebody in the midst of like a shitstorm of a day. I think that's exactly a very good point. If you had to describe your personal philosophy or condense your life experience into a few words, what would it be?
Oh gosh.
Oh gosh. Okay.
Oh gosh, keep going. Yeah, I guess that's it. Yeah. Gotta come out with whatever just comes out. I think that's it.
No, if that's what it is, that's what it is. I mean, I think that is true sometimes, because that really is what like, you can sit there and look at, like, let's just use the example of the dog crap on the floor, and be like, oh no,
there better not be
on the floor. Why did it poop on the floor? How could it poop on the floor? Why didn't it let me? But it doesn't clean up the poop. It doesn't get rid of the smell. It doesn't do any. So, oh gosh, just keep going and clean up the dog shit and get it over with.
If I go out there and one of my dogs pooped on the floor, I swear to God.
It's my fault because I threw it out in the evening.
It's your fault. Alrighty.
Who inspires you?
Oh my gosh. Anybody and everybody that picks themselves up and carries on in this life with whatever they're facing, you know, whether it's just waking up, you know, anybody that just carries on, you know, that faces whatever life has thrown at you, that they inspire me. Just human beings in general inspire me. Just, you know, it's a hard thing to be a human, I think. And I don't know if a lot of people agree with me, but I think it's kind of a hard thing. So just human beings in general that get up and face their day, face their job, face, you know, their families, and just trying to face themselves. People that do that every day, they inspire me.
No, I agree with you. With that it's hard to be a human. I don't think a lot of people realize that, because we have all this comfort stuff, and the comfort stuff is what makes it hard to be a human, because all the extra bullshit that we have to put ourselves through to have this comfort stuff, really.
Exactly.
I wrote a song when I lived in Vegas, and one of the lines was, "An animal can't handle this kind of life. That's why we have so many ways to escape from all the shit we ain't made to take." And it's like, I really don't think we're made to drive cars. Like, stress in a evolutionary level, or in surviving in the wilderness level, stress makes sense because you're only prolonged to it briefly. There's a predator around. I'd better run. It's very cold. I better build shelter. You know what I mean? Like, that's how stress was. And now in the culture that we've created, stress has become such a problem because we have all these artificial forms of stress. Like, we're not supposed to be working for this minimum wage or just above minimum wage and pay rent and then have to worry about a mortgage or like all this crap. Like, so it is very difficult to be human. Like, think about like what's a cat doing right now? Like an outdoor cat.
My cat's sleeping.
See,
my cat's sleeping on my lap right now, just nonchalantly. Like, life's good for my cat.
Yeah, they have it pretty easy. And I mean, other animals would have it easy if people weren't so goddamn complicated. Like, we wouldn't have global warming if people didn't need to have all this consumer crap and all this stuff. So yeah, it is difficult to be a human, especially one that thinks about stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, a lot of people say how much easier it would be if people were smarter. I think it'd be easier if I was stupider sometimes. Like, I wouldn't know that things were difficult.
like they say in AA, keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah, that's one of the things that struck. Somebody told me once to like keep it simple and not think so much about stuff. And I spent like the next 2 days thinking about that. And like, I'm like, that's like the worst thing to tell somebody that overthinks things is like not to overthink things. So I'm going to think like, am I thinking about this the right amount? How much should I think about this? Should I think about it for this long? Like, it fractals off into infinity until my brain hurts. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm gonna go play video games. I can't think about this anymore.
Yep, exactly.
I've asked previous guests to end the show in their own fashion. You don't have to, but you're allowed to have the last word if you want.
Oh, I would love the last word. Sure. Yeah, if I could say anything, it's just do something nice for yourself. Again, just find a way to do something nice for yourself, because I think that's just the meaning of it all. You gotta love yourself. So if you haven't done it yet today, do something nice for yourself.
Don't believe. Don't follow. Do not consume. Do not watch. Largely what I'm talking about here is reclaiming experience. This is what's been taken from us. It's a self-advancing, self-expanding, self-defining process, and it takes no prisoners.
The real world isn't a spiritual world, it isn't a material world, it isn't an empty world, it isn't a solid world. It's simply